Well, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody back for this short, hopefully short meeting until their upcoming one in July. Everybody's got a chance to read the minutes. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, they'll be approved as read, and I'll pass it on to the board for dispensation.
Move to
Ada,
approve.
your turn with
Sorry.
the FY 2022 Rural Transportation Program. Take it away.
Ada?
Great, thank you. I am having a little bit of lag here on my meeting, so hopefully that's not problematic. But I'm just pulling up my slideshow here to share my screen. So just wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the transportation work program for this coming year. As you may know, there are two work programs that we manage here. One is for the urbanized area and the other being for the PDC area. So as you can see here, there is a little bit of overlap between both work programs, but just keep in mind that you won't see all of the transportation projects that we'll be working on, only the ones that are within the PDC area. So just starting off, we always put aside some funding to have general technical assistance funds that covers things like helping with smart scale and TA applications, planning and training activities, reviewing small and local area plans. And something that we've been working on quite a bit in the past year and we'll be working on next year is comprehensive plan review and updates. So this is a more general category, but there is definitely a lot of work that we do that falls under this umbrella. Oh, excuse me here. So one of the big projects that we'll be working on next year is a rural flood impact project. So the idea of this is to build on the PDC's hazard mitigation plan that was recently published. And we'll be working with localities, VDOT, and the Department of Emergency Management to evaluate the potential need for either emergency vehicle rerouting, consideration of future mitigation projects in the future, and using that as a basis of recommendations for projects in the future. We are pretty flexible on this because this is the first time we've really delved into a project like this. So we imagine that this will be an ongoing thing between this fiscal year and years to come, but you know, it'll be good to work with localities to see what the needs are and then go from there on in terms of how we want to deliver the final product. But I definitely think this is a good step in the right direction, making sure that we're keeping our, especially regional roads, less vulnerable to hazards, especially as we've seen increased flooding over the past year. So another project we're going to be working on is an update to our Greenways, Blueways, and Trails plan. We last updated this in 2012. So we're planning to begin in the latter half of the fiscal year, so beginning in January of 22 and continuing until the end of fiscal year 23. The plan is meant to guide development of trails, parks, and river connections. So our real vision for this is to do a lot of data collection over the next 18 months and create kind of a repository of all the trails and parks and river connections and make it a resource for those that are coming into the region that might not be as knowledgeable about what's available in the area. So it'll be a good resource for economic development and transportation and recreation. So we're excited about that. There is a lot of data collection to be done, but it'll be really helpful to have all of that data in one place going forward. And so this is just an overview of what the work plan looks like. We have our program administration tasks, which are, of course, completing the work program every year, keeping general administration going. And then, as we've talked about, we have general technical assistance, the flood project, and also this active transportation line had once been called alternative transportation, but as we're trying to stop delineating between different modes of transit, This is just some terminology change that the TTC has recommended. So we're excited about that. We're excited to get these projects going, and happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
And Mr. Chairman, we will need a vote to approve this because this is a contract that we will establish with VDOT.
I'll move approval. Let's read. Looks like Sarah was trying to second.
Mayor, you with it? Mayor Connor, you with it? There you go.
Yeah, unmuted my microphone. I'm better now.
There you go.
As opposed, in consideration for the type of meeting, is there anyone opposed? Hearing no dissension, this motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Mr.
Turn
Chairman,
back
our
to you,
next item.
Gary.
Thank you. Our next item you heard about last month. We believe that it's time now to start a update to our comprehensive economic development strategy. The document we started in 2011, updated again in 2016, 17, and we think this is a great opportunity to make some improvements, which would include listing the projects, talking about resiliency, and addressing agriculture and silviculture in our plan. We have we will continue to negotiate with EDA on the budget. We think it's going to be around $60,000 of a federal grant to be matched one-on-one, $60,000 of local money. We believe that our local funds would be $30,000 a year for 2 years, 2 fiscal years, coming out of our reserves. $90,000 roughly would be for a consultant. The balance would be for staff and expenses. Our reserves are in good shape. Even when we take out the funds for the training center and the community college that we have pledged, we want to keep 8 months of expenses on hand, which is about $600,000. And taking out the money for SEDS would still leave us around $650,000 in our accounts in 2023. Kelly Hitchcock has been managing and negotiating and working with the EDA folks. Kelly, do you have anything to add to my little summary?
Whoops, sorry about that. No, I think you've covered it and laid that all out. So
And we do need a motion so that you can make this grant application later in the summer or whenever it's appropriate. We do need the board to take action that they're willing to take the $60,000 out of our reserves. Is that correct?
that is correct.
So what do you think, folks?
So Gary, did you adding agriculture and what was the other item? Agriculture?
Silviculture, forestry.
I didn't know that word.
Yeah.
You gotta take some Latin classes.
Well, here I am.
Your chairman's national forestry judge and champion, 1982.
Great. Well, with that, I'll move forward.
We have a second.
Gary Shannenberger, I see.
Any discussion? Hold on. We have any discussion on this? Hearing none. All right. Any opposed? As there's no opposition, we'll pass this with the consensus of the commission. All right, Gary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And welcome Waverly. Good to have you here. Yes, sir. Our work plan for 2022 is a compilation of our contracts, the things that we are being paid to do, and the things that we are choosing to do, that we want to do. The work plan traditionally is built by the information from planning departments and from many of the managers, administrators about work that they have in mind for us for the new year. It is used by the Department of Housing and Community Development as part of our contract for the almost $90,000 that they're paying us through the state. And it's a good management tool so that the board and staff knows what is on our agenda for the year, and that we know what is expected when it comes time for the executive director performance review. So we have the work plan in front of you. It covers the waterfront of the projects that we do, from transportation to community development to environmental items to public safety to our radio systems, as well as a workforce board. All of the staff is around to answer any questions you might have about that work plan for the new year, and this is the right time to ask those questions.
Gary, this is Frank. Quick question. Appreciate the work plan. Looks pretty standard for us. Just want to reaffirm, if we want to make a change mid-year, that's certainly within our discretion should something else come up, correct?
That is correct. It is a living document.
My favorite kind. So with that, I would move approval of the work plan.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Is there any opposition to the motion? With no opposition, I'll move it. This motion is approved with consensus of the board. And on to Rosalie, year-to-date financial update.
Yes, sir. Mallory, is that something you can pull up by any chance?
Yes, give me just 1 second.
Sure. While she's pulling this up, we have added several columns at the end for this time of year. We did do, keep it right there for right now, Mallory, a year-end estimate for this year, and we've also added a column for the budget. The health and just I pointed this out the last meeting, and this is it's gonna haunt me through the end of the year. Is we had a budget of 79, but I messed up on the budget, and so we are going to have an estimated actual of 97. So I forgot to add a couple of things in there apparently. So that will follow us through the year. Just for the month of March, since our last meeting, other than normal operating expenses and a few grant normal expenses, there were no unusual transactions. And I guess coming down to the bottom of page 3, Mallory. A little bit more. I'll stop right there. So under the line item funding from fund balance, we had initially said that our budget year end, we would end in the positive by $19,494. Right now, we're saying that we will overspend the budget by about $4,000, and a large portion of that does have to do with that, my error in the health insurance. There's also a couple of revenue sources that might not come till the next year, which is also driving that difference. Did anyone have any questions on the actual or the year-end estimated? Okay. Thank you. And Gary's going to walk through the budget.
Yes,
Or-
Mallory, if you just leave that screen right there for the immediate time. Our budget almost balanced for next year with a $2,100 deficit. We feel pretty comfortable that we'll make up that $2,100 through the course of the year in new projects, new grants that will come through. And every few years, we do start a year with a negative balance. So it's not unusual. We don't like to do it, but it happens once in a while. This budget incorporates the $134,000 for the community college that we pledged. They did not draw any from it for this year, but we expect them to start drawing on it next year. And it does incorporate the $30,000 from our reserves for SEDS. It incorporates a 3.5% pay increase for staff beginning July the 1st. Scroll back up to the first page, Mallory, or maybe it's the second, at the top of that page, no, top of the third page. There you go, top of the third page. The dues increase of 1 penny is reflected in this line, and that's local dues, and that was approved in November. We typically approve our dues rate in the fall for the year beginning in July, the following July. The state has appropriated an additional $14,000 out of the DHCD line, and that's the first state increase we've had in several years. We'll have a new project with Appomattox Town, the Church Street water line, for an additional $10,000. And several of our ongoing projects have increased their contracts to us. The radio board, the DEQ Chesapeake Bay project are two examples of that. Expenditures wise, I've mentioned a 3.5% pay increase. Our health insurance rate has gone down a little bit, but we have made adjustments that Rosalie had mentioned. And that's about all the highlights that I can think of. It's a pretty traditional budget that has not changed very much into the new year. Our programs are driven by the contracts that we receive. And so this matches the contracts and dues revenues that we receive. You can take the budget down now, Mallory, and put us back to pictures again. What questions for Rosalie and myself do you have related to the year end or the budget for next year?
Mr. Chairman, this is Frank, if I could.
Me?
Gary, appreciate the overview. Just talk me through again. I think Rosalie just said we're projecting $2,000, right, off budget year end this year. Is that the same? 4,000. I'm sorry, I was looking all the way to the right. And then we're projecting a $2,000 deficit in next year's budget when we open.
When we start, that's right.
So are you fairly confident that by the close of next budget year, we'll be back in the black on all fronts?
Yes, we'll make up a lot of the $4,000 that we're short this year. We'll make that up in the carryover money for several of our contracts, like our transportation VDOT and VDRPT money. So yes, I feel that we'll make that $4,000 up. Mm-hmm. Oh, it'll be okay.
Okay, I recall that from the summary. I appreciate that. It's just a little different from how we do that. So each year I like to touch base and get your level of confidence in terms of how the PDC operates. So That's my only question. If there are no other questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and move approval.
Request a second.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded to approve the fiscal year 2022 PDC budget. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed to the approval of the 2020 FY 2022 PDC budget? Hearing none, approve this motion with the consensus of the board.
And the staff thanks you for that additional pay increase.
Quite welcome. Do we have any other business to come before the board at this time?
Staff does not have any additional business.
Any representative members?
Mr. Chairman, this is Frank again, Campbell County. Just want to very quickly recognize and thank Kelly for her presentation to the Campbell County Board on the hazard mitigation plan. Appreciated her time. It was a succinct and clear presentation. So just want to acknowledge it and thank her for it. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, I would agree with that and appreciate Kelly coming to town council.
Any other business?
Mr. Mayor, unless we have some business to come up, I don't have any business that I'm aware of for May or June. So we may not meet again until July unless we have some business to cover.
All right. So our next scheduled meeting, July 15th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Hybrid meeting as this one is. With that, motion to adjourn is in order.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you all.